I'm going to be honest with you, preparing for this TED Talk was a little bit of an emotional roller coaster for me, and the reason for that is because I had a written text, and then I questioned myself, how can I talk about health and long life without being brutally honest to myself and to you? And although it's my third TEDx talk, this is the first time in my life that last night I sat down and I rewrote some things. So bear with me for having some notes here with me. And I appreciate the safe space. How ugly he has become. How old he is. He really looks dead. So my name is Kristóf Steiner. I'm a 43 years old writer. I'm an activist. And I used to host television shows here in Hungary once upon a time. Now I'm hosting self-awareness retreats all around the world together with my husband. And the comments I started with are some of the kind remarks I'm getting every single time when I return to my former comfort zone, to my former natural environment, which is, in a way, civilization, and in another way, it's media. So this is partially because people just tend to be rude, but put that on the side, it's also because I have to give them the benefit of the doubt. They don't see me that often anymore as they used to when I was on TV, so it might be shocking for them that I age. And it might be also a little bit my fault in a way because some years ago, when I was diagnosed with a physical condition which is called dysplasia, it is a pre-cancerous condition, I have made a decision. From a biological matter, this decision was not fully mine. It was something that I decided to go with. So I decided that I'm going to get old and I will eventually die. More specifically, I decided that I'm not going to fight the fact that we are all aging and there is absolutely nothing we can do about it. So 7 years ago, following some examinations, surgeries, some of them more successful than the other, some complications, and eventually one big nervous breakdown, I kind of brought up the question to my husband that maybe we need to leave the big city. And after some research, we found a tiny little village in Greece by the sea, and we moved into a half-built building, into a tiny little apartment, and I started to do a bit of vegetable farming. Eventually 6 cats adopted us, and somehow being closer to nature started to get me closer to my own true nature. And also somehow being out there without the gigantic and oppressive expectations of this youth-obsessed society, I started to have a different relationship with time. I started to enjoy very much doing things slowly. I started to do fermentation and sourdough and kombucha and all of those things, but on a more self-reflective level, I decided that I'm going to stop dyeing my hair. I used to go to the hairdresser every 2nd or 3rd month, and then I was like, okay, I'm onto something. Something is really changing in me. And so the next step was quitting Botox, which I used to get since I was about 30. about 2 or 3 times a year as sort of a prevention treatment. You know, in this media world, everybody tells you you have to maintain your youthful look, and a part of it is these fillers and all that comes with it. And miraculously, I started to feel much younger when all of these things started to leave my face. So I said, okay, there is one more thing that I gotta do, and that was editing my photos. I used to edit my photos quite obsessively, and just before I go on with this, I wanted to tell you, please do not feel bad if you're doing any of these things, because it's definitely not any kind of right or wrong. It's definitely not being more or less advanced. It's just different people in different times of their lives. The reason why I had to make these decisions was because, as I said, I was sitting with my phone before putting out a post on Instagram, and it took me longer time to edit the picture than to write the text, while the text was the important matter that I put out. And once I was ready, and I had no dark circles whatsoever, and no wrinkles, and no little belly, and nothing like that, I was very happy. I pressed the button, I put out the post, and then I came back to Hungary, and I met someone in real life who knew me from Instagram, and the person said, "Oh my God, you look so tired. Are you okay? You really should get some rest." And then I understood how much I'm my own enemy, in a way. And I understood that they were right. They were right, I should get some rest. I should get some rest from trying to win a game that I'm absolutely sentenced to lose. So instead of trying to look younger, I have decided that I'm going to try to take better care of myself. And I, of course, could have started with some TikTok trend about new beauty routine, but instead of that, I decided that I'm going to try to set some sort of a balance in my life. And this is the tricky part, because setting a balance in one's life does not happen overnight. And it also doesn't happen in a way that, okay, now I have found my balance, I have nothing to do anymore, I have arrived. No, it's not like that. It's very difficult, and it can also be just as hopeless and very annoying as trying to make all your wrinkles disappear. So the big difference is that this actually makes sense, and this is something you can work with. And unlike measuring yourself to celebrities and influencers who you think you know, you can measure yourself to somebody who you clearly know and you clearly understand, and this person is you. This person is someone who you are becoming. So the big question is how to start to feel better about our age and about the way we look right now, right here. We know already that if we are setting the standard, that helps, not other people's standards. But then there is also this little thing that creeps in, that people are continuously judging you, and they are telling you, you look good for your age. And then there it is. It was a positive comment, but also, was it really? So quitting to give about what people think or say about you is just like quitting any other bad habit. If you ever quit any bad habit in your life, then you can do this. So, first it's going to be very, very difficult. And then it's going to be a little bit easier, and then it's suddenly going to turn into an extremely difficult path once again, and then somewhere along this loop, is going to become a part of your internal system, something that is you, and you're not doing it because you want it to look prettier, but because this is essentially within you. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an example. I turned vegan in 2009. I quit drinking and I quit smoking about 2 years ago now. And none of these decisions had anything to do with me trying to live a more even healthy life, but definitely not trying to look prettier. I am vegan for one very, very simple reason. That is because I don't want to be a part of a system that is using and abusing animals. And I quit drinking for one very simple reason, that I understood that as much as it was fun to get tipsy and to be drunk, I also got emotionally unstable every single time I was drinking, which led to arguments, which led to self-doubt, which led to places where I understood that I don't want to be there. It's difficult enough to stay stable without drinking alcohol. And then I quit smoking for one very simple reason. It was hurting my lungs, and I understood that if I'm lucky enough to be able to use my lungs on the long term, probably it's better for me if I stop smoking. So you see, none of these things were sort of like a trend that I started to ride. They were a very clear, essential understanding that there is no turning back. So it's also important for me to add that this does not mean that I'm ever going to be able to leave behind all my self-destructive habits. And this is not something you can expect from yourself. I'm also going to say a few bad things that I'm doing so we can all feel better about ourselves. I love my midnight snacks. My favorite meal of the day is when I'm standing next to the fridge and I'm checking what are the leftovers. And I also really love going to the bathroom and taking my phone with me, and I'm scrolling. And then, I arrive to the point where I understand that my brain didn't even process what I'm seeing. So I know it's a bad habit, really. And I also love to go to the beach at noon. It's a time when I have the time to go to the beach. And I know that it's really not something that I should be doing or I should say on a TEDx stage, but I think it's very important that we own our bad habits as well. And I have to say that I am using sunscreen. I also put on sunscreen before I came out to the Sziget. But my way of staying forever young is really not starting on my skin. It's starting in my mind, really. By appreciating the radiance and the resistance and the resilience of the youth, but also of the elderly, and all of this within me and around me. And it's also very important to appreciate everything that is in between youth and elderly, because all of us are there, basically. These are just words. I don't pretend that I know everything just because I should be old enough to know. And I think for me, not pretending that I know everything is kind of like a direct way to say, I am very open to learn from you and from you and from you. I think keeping us young is very much of a process of understanding that we always have something new that we can learn everywhere and from every single human being. And I refuse to stop some things that maybe are cringeworthy for some people, but once again, let's go with it. I love dancing. When I go to a party, I love to close my eyes and I just dance. And I do the same dance moves since I was 16. I'm 43, I'm reminding you. I had once a boyfriend who told me, you know, sometimes you have to stop dancing like that. And we are not boyfriends anymore. So I think this is very important when every single year at Budapest Pride we have a collaboration. There is an after party and my husband and I are DJing there. And apart from the DJing, when I go out on the stage and I dance, I just want to invite everybody to a world where you can dance the way you would do at home when nobody is watching. I also love my tank tops, and I love chopping off my pants to shorts. And why would I ever stop wearing them? They are making me feel good. They are my style. Who says that you're supposed to wear something just because you arrived to a certain age, or that you are not allowed to wear something because now you're supposed to age gracefully, whatever that means really. But most importantly, I keep very connected to my playful, excited, and very sensitive childhood self. Because I think one of the things that we are doing wrong in this society is that we are confusing not getting excited anymore with being a grown-up. I honestly believe that being genuinely excited is something that we need to stick with. And you know, when you're acting like nothing can really shock me anymore, just to be this superior person, that's not being a grown-up. That's just really, really sad, in my opinion. And there's another thing, a very important thing that I understood already, but I still need to put it in practice. And this is the following. I cannot keep stealing energy from my older self just to maintain my younger self. So saying, I have to take this job, I have to accept this invitation, I have to put out this post and maintain my popularity on social media is actually really unsustainable. And the thinking, I will have some rest and I will give my chance for myself to chill and to recharge once I will have less opportunities and I will be less capable, is really a direct, express VIP ticket to a total burnout. So my older self needs my younger self to be very considerate with him. Because if I accept the narrative that my priorities right now at this age is more important or valuable than the priorities of the older Kristóf, then I'm going to end up like Demi Moore in The Substance. I'm going to become like a pile of goo, really. And I'm going to have to ask myself why. Why did that happen to me? And why did it happen to me? Because of desperately trying to fit in. So that I could feel loved, so that I could make up for the lack of appreciation that I have towards myself. But the truth is that if somebody is telling me, your skin looks so fresh today, it's not going to make me love ourselves more. It's not going to make you love yourself more. And if somebody is telling me, your butt is so tight, it's going to probably be a nice compliment, and I'll save it for the rainy days, but it's never going to make up for the love that I didn't give to myself. So feeling good can come from one single place in my life, and this is gratitude. Understanding how one single day matters. Understanding that no matter how old we are still very, very young. And yes, our bodies are going to go weaker as we advance in this life. But it's also true that until the day we die, we have so many, well, maybe hours, maybe days, maybe weeks, maybe years, we can experience so much. And I believe that when our body is going weaker, what it's trying to say is that maybe it's time to focus on a little bit of a different kind of strength. Maybe we should focus a little bit on the strength that comes from within. And maybe it's also kind of a signal that we should stop trying so hard. I often think about it, how absurd it is actually that when there's a newborn baby in a family, everybody gets so excited and the people want to go and see the baby. And then they go, and then there is this little creature in the bed, all covered up, and this child can't eat by itself, can't drink by itself. It's pooping and peeing in his, her, their pants. And also, he can't walk. And we look at the child and we say, so adorable, how cute, how amazing. And we take pictures and we send it to our friends. And then now, let's take the same image and interpret it to an older person near the death. So we are entering a room, there is a person all covered up, the person can't walk, the person can barely talk, they can't go to the bathroom by themselves. And what do we say? We say, this is just so sad. We say, I want to remember the person the way I have them in my mind when they were still thriving, when they were still healthy, when they were glowing, when they were beautiful. It is a little bit unfair, isn't it? So I think we are so afraid of dying that in a way we really forget what life is all about. So circling back a little bit to my personal health, thanks to a much more holistic approach, now my health is stable. But before we would celebrate that, I also want to say that I personally don't believe in health versus being ill. I don't really believe that any of us are fitting in such a category. We are, once again, just like in age, we are in those gray zones, we are in the nuances, and while we are on this planet, we have cells multiplying in our bodies, and we have viruses that are coming into our body, and bacteria that are taking over, and then they leave, and then some cells die. And all of this is an absolutely natural process. So instead of trying to say, now I'm healthy or now I'm sick, I think it's really important to appreciate where we are. And as long as we are functioning, I think we are pretty lucky. The closest we can get to immortality is not to spend our life fearing of death. The closest we can get to immortality is appreciating all the path that is leading up to our death. By saying no to things that we understand that we don't want anymore in our lives, by saying yes to things that we need to thrive, and to understand that if we allow ourselves to burn out, then the whole planet is going to burn out. If every single person burns out, there is nobody to work for. So the very important solidarity for the world and for our fellow human beings actually starts with solidarity with our own selves. And to all of you who are bordering 40 from whichever direction, so statistically, we can say that we are about halfway through. Congratulations, you made it. And I also want to add that on the B side, we are actually newborn babies. So now is the time when we can say that, so when I'll be 55, I will be once again an annoying teenager. But this time I'm going to have much, much more experiences. So maybe I'm going to harm myself a little bit less than last time when I was a teenager. And at the age of 73, we are going to peak once again, like we did when we were 33. And then when we are arriving to 80, then we can say that 80 is the new 40. So even when we are going to be completely dead, we are going to be very, very, very young, because there will be so many people who died much longer ago than we ever will. Very liberating, isn't it? The youth is really a matter of perspective, because never, ever in this lifetime we are going to be as young as we are right now, in this very moment. And because no matter how old we are or young we are, there are always going to be people who are going to give us these special comments that make us feel very incompetent. They're going to say, oh, you are way too young to understand. When I was your age, I also didn't get it. And they are going to suddenly say, at one point, okay, boomer. And suddenly they are going to say, you just can't get it right. You're too old. So allow me to close this little talk with one big question. When exactly was that 5 minutes or so when we had the right to understand how we are supposed to live this life? If once we were too young to know, and then suddenly we became too old to know. When was it? What do you think? I think it's now. Thank you.